What do you think, guys? Go off in the comments. Just whatever you're thinking. Just please just say it. Sway it out. I'm just sway it out.
So then you gotta sway it out. Don't slow it out, just sway it out.
I'm red.
I am ready. What does your shirt say? Let's start a cult.
Where today? Kelly. From movies to video games, welcome to Marie Plays It All. Today's episode is a side quest with Jose Ramos, and today we are talking about some of our favorite cult movies, and not cult classics, movies, horror movies that, right? Horror, thriller, psychological horror
Mostly
movies.
horror. They tend to be
Huh?
horror. Yeah.
Huh? That revolve around cults. Now, Jose, we have talked about cult movies and why we are so attracted to them. Do you want to tell me a little bit as to why you like a horror cult movies?
Well, yeah. I mean, for anyone who's listened before, surprise, surprise, we like horror movies. Uh,
That's nice.
yeah. So we're big fans of horror movies. So we've
Mm,
had many conversations about them, and there's so many subgenres when it comes to horror movies. Me personally, I've been watching horror movies since I was a kid. I used to watch more horror movies than cartoons as a kid. So I got to the point where horror movies, they don't really, scare me in a
mm,
way. They're just more of like heavy suspense type movies is kind of the feeling that I get with it, edge of your seat. But if I had to pick a genre that I feel like, okay, this is the closest thing that there is to kind of giving me a little bit of that scare and that creep outness, it would be cult movies in general, just because like I feel out of a lot of the subgenres, cult movies are I feel it's a real life danger.
yes.
Uh, you know, your chances of running into a xenomorph or having a clawed, burnt up killer hunting you in your dreams, or having your immortal sibling chase you over multiple timelines. Your chances of that things happening, they're pretty low. I won't say zero
Mhm,
because, scientifically, nothing's ever 100% or zero. There's always that opportunity.
mhm.
But with folks, they're a real life danger that has been there for decades. And
Yes.
you see stories, you see real life, crime documentaries, events, articles, podcasts, whatever it is, entailing real life incidents when it came to cults. And it's something that, targets those that are in their weakest states,
Hmm.
the susceptible and things like that. So are vulnerable
Yes.
in a way, which makes it even more creepy because it doesn't matter who you are. Everyone, well, I would say again, can't say 100%. 99% of the people at one point or another will hit a vulnerable state, in their life. And if you were to kind of fall in with the right charismatic person who handles a call, you would be a perfect target. So it's very believable that this can happen to people. So when you're watching these movies, that little thing's always in the back of my head. Is like I can see this happening to a lot of people, so it makes it creepier. So that's why I think I look at that subgenre of horror a little bit different than all the other subgenres.
Because it is real and it is true and it does happen and it's happening all the time and it's always going to happen. There's always going to be cults like that. There's always going to be people who are like cult leader mentality, and it's true evil what they can do to people and manipulate the vulnerable people and use them as their little pawns and whatever they want to, and just to really convince people to do anything that you say, like to have that power over somebody is like just truly evil. It's like true evil in this world and it's real. So when you watch these movies, you're like, okay, this is legit. This stuff happens. Maybe not all the scenarios that happen in the movies happen, but you know that stuff like this has happened, does happen, and will always happen. So it's the true, real horror, and it happens every day. And yeah, it's creepy, it's messed up, and it's truly. evil.
Yeah, I mean, just as a personal examples, I've especially during my college years and
You were a
like
cult leader?
high
You
school.
convinced
Uh,
people? You were a cult leader?
no, no, I tried. They weren't really buying into what I was
Mm,
selling,
mm,
so it didn't quite work out. But
sorry.
high school, college, and things like that, I would seek out places that were supposedly haunted
Yeah.
or and stuff. It was like, okay, this is considered one of the most haunted cemeteries in the country. Let me go to it. This tunnel is haunted. This shut down asylum is haunted. Let's go.
Mhm.
And I would go to these places, and sometimes I'll hear something weird or I'll see something weird, and kind of just keep, trucking along and go through it. Like, yeah, I'll be a little on edge of like, wait, what is that? But it was like my curiosity was still kind of be like, all right, let's go, let's go. There was this one time when I first moved to Hollywood where a friend of mine at the time, while we were signing up to do extra work somewhere and kind of put our names on file so we can get extra work, he met someone outside who gave him a pamphlet for an acting course that teaches you about the industry and how to audition and all of that. And it was coincidentally in Hollywood, so it wasn't too far from where we were living. And this is like within the first week of us moving to California. None of us have ever been there. And he was like, okay, I'm gonna go to this. And us being in this unknown area, I was like, well, shouldn't go alone. I'll go with you. I'll take the walk with you. It's close enough. So we go over there and get to the address, and I was like, is this really the address? It's like a castle, like a cathedral. I was like, all right, he's like, let's go. I'm like, all right, let's go in. We walk in. First red flag that we have there is you have two people on the front desk. You have this guy and this girl at the front desk. As we're walking in, they look at us. They both head into the back room. And out come two Hispanic women. Me and my friend are both Hispanic. It's like
Okay.
you have like for every race in the back. It's like, oh, we got Hispanics. Get the Hispanic ones. Like that was the first red flag. It's like you had two people there. You saw us, and then you walk to the back, and you get people like us to go to the front. They take us into another room. We have other people there, and it starts out fine. They're talking about the industry, little tips and tricks for auditioning and all of that stuff. And then halfway through, a guy in a suit like walks in and he's got a book in hand. And then all of a sudden, we're not talking about that stuff anymore. We're talking about this book that will change your life. And
Oh
this
my
book
God.
contains the secret of, finding yourself, your true self and elevating, and that's gonna help you with these auditions and all that. Long story short, it was a Scientology book. This was a
Oh,
Scientology center, but they don't tell you any of that stuff until you're in there at that point. And they're trying to get us to like buy these books, and we're like, at that point, red flags everywhere. So unlike going into the tunnel and all of that stuff, like at this point, I'm ready to go. My curiosity wasn't strong enough because I'm thinking, oh, felt. They take us into another room that has only one exit, and there's someone standing there in that exit. It's a little amphitheater, and they show us this video talking about Scientology. And no lie, at the end of the video, the camera focus in on the guy, like it's like this close, and it's like he's staring into your soul. And he was like, I forget what exact phrasing is, but it was something along the line is, I wouldn't say that not joining or not taking part in what they're doing is like jumping out of off a bridge, but it is. He was comparing not joining them to basically like ending yourself. In a way, I was like, it's enough, gotta go. We ended up like they were like, oh, do you want to stay for another thing? We're like, no, no, we're good, we're good. We got out of there, and I was like, next time you have an idea to go somewhere like this, you're going yourself. I'm going. But it's like I've thought I've seen ghosts. I thought I've seen like whatever, and it's like, ooh, okay, but whatever. I thought I was in this cult scenario, which it still might have been a cult scenario, and I was like, "I need to get out of here." Like, my sense of urgency was at a different level.
Honestly, I think you jumped off a bridge there because you could have been the next Tom Cruise, man. You should have read
That's
that book.
yeah. Could have been jumping on couches,
Yes.
in the middle of a talk show.
Wow, that's a creepy story. Yeah, I felt like ooh, heebie-jeebies just listening to that. Wow. That being said, let's get into your movies, Jose. What is what is a movie about cults that you really just adore or like, or it's okay, or you like it?
There's a lot out there that are good movies. I wanted to do kind of more lower key stuff
Mm.
with mine. They might still be known, but they're not, you know, your Midsommar type
Yeah,
movie, that's very well known.
like obviously we're not going to talk about like my two favorite ones are Midsummer and Hereditary, but we talk about those
Yeah.
movies forever at nauseum. So if you want to see good cult movies, you haven't seen Hereditary or Midsummer, watch those two.
So the first one I have is a movie called The Invitation. Now,
Oh my god, yeah.
yeah, do you have this
It's
on your?
no, I forgot all
Oh,
about it, but yes, I've seen it twice. Okay, oh yes, go. Go.
yeah.
Good
And for the
one.
audience members, do not confuse this with The Invitation that came out like last year, the vampire one. So this was a lower key movie. This was on Netflix for a while. I don't think it's on Netflix anymore, but I think it's on one of the free services. It might be on Tubi at this point in time, or Freevee, one of the two. As the title says, this movie is about an invitation. This guy, he gets an invitation and he's going with his girlfriend to his old house where his ex sent out this invitation to him and their old friends. They have not seen each other for a couple of years. They had a tragedy, a shared tragedy in their life, which ended up crumbling their relationship and they ended up separating. Very common thing that you see in, movie shows and in real life. Sometimes a shared tragedy can either bring you closer to together or it can create a gap that's too big to come back from. This was one of those situations where it was too big to come back from in there. So they hadn't seen her for 2 years, and they just get a random invitation. We're throwing a dinner party, and we want you and our closest friends to go. So they arrive at the house, and I don't want to give away too much details of the movie because it's worth watching, but everything is not as it seems. And you find out that his ex, and her new man, they've been in Mexico for a while, and then there they met another person who was part of a group in Mexico, a group, aka a cult, that teaches you basically to not fear death. That pain is a choice. It's an option. We don't have to feel pain. You choose to feel pain, and you can just put that aside and just be happy, and you don't have to fear death itself, is whether it's yours or the people that you love. And
Mm-hmm.
this whole dinner is kind of turning into a sales pitch for them, where they're slowly trying to sell their friends and him on their ideologies and the philosophy of what they think. And the guy the whole time, he's still hurting from what happened, and he's seeing his ex all happy, good lucky, and everything is fine, and he's not fully buying it, and he's coming in still with all that anger and anxiety over the incident, and the uncomfortableness of being back in the home where it happened, and he's of course paranoid in there, so he's seeing red flags that no one else is seeming to catch, and they're ignoring. But what makes this movie really good is that for you kind of battle of, is there really something going on, or is this his paranoia in his head because he has all this anger and anxiety, and it goes, back and forth. But one thing that's for sure is they are basically from a cult, even though they're not saying it's from a cult at all.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's really engaging. It's a movie that honestly, I hadn't heard anything about. I just saw it by accident once, and now I've seen it multiple times, and I revisit it because I was like, it's just such a low key, one location film It's just filled with so much tension and so much psychological aspects, where these characters are in their state of mind.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that one, and I have to say, I actually really enjoyed that movie, and it was interesting to see the different, like him and his ex-wife, seeing the different way that people deal with like grief and tragedy. You think like, well, which way's better for you? Which way's like the right way to feel? And like, there is no right way, but it was interesting to see that aspect, and it is very tense, and you do second guess a lot of things, and I love the ending. I won't say what the ending is, but that last scene in the ending, I was like, oh damn! Like I love that movie. I highly recommend that movie too, Jose. That's a really good one, and it's emotional. It's really an emotional movie. I found it to be like a difficult watch a little bit, for reasons, but not too difficult where it's like I can't deal with this. Like it was just like it was good. First one I'm going to talk about is found footage movies. I had to. A found footage movie called The Conspiracy.
Oh, I haven't seen this one. Do tell.
Ooh. Okay, it's a 2012 Canadian found footage movie. Okay. It tells the story of two documentary filmmakers who set out to create a film about a conspiracy theorist named Terrence G, who disappears during the making of the film. And the two filmmakers are subsequently drawn into the world of a global syndicate whose aims and I don't know what that word is. Typo. Well, whose aims are clouded in secrecy. Okay. And the reason why I love this movie so much, first of all, I'm a sucker for conspiracy theories because I think a lot of it aren't conspiracies at all. I think there's fact in a lot of conspiracy theories, and this one in particular, it mimics Bohemian Grove. Now, do you know what Bohemian Grove is?
No, do explain.
Okay, so this is real. Bohemian Grove is a restricted 2,700 acre campground in Monte Rio, California. Founded in 1878, it belongs to a private gentlemen's club known as the Bohemian Club. And in mid July each year, Bohemian Grove hosts a more than 2 week encampment of some of the most prominent men in the world. Okay,
Why does that remind me of uh yeah, Late Night with the Devil?
that's why that was my one of my favorite parts of Late Night with the Devil because they took that and you know how there's owls everywhere in Late Night with the
Yeah,
Devil? Well, in Bohemian Grove, there's a huge owl statue, like huge owl statue that they all sit around and there's fire and they dress in costumes and everything. This is a real thing that the leaders of the world go to every year and they do.
it's weird that it's owls and owls get represented as that because even in like Batman, one of his enemies is this secret underground society that's been
Uh-huh.
shaping things for years, and they're the court of owls.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, sorry, go on.
So they don't call it Bohemian Grove in the movie. It's something different, but it's exactly what that is. So they're doing like a documentary on that place. So they have to get into that place and everything. So it's that whole story of how they get into it, and they're trying to like expose things. And I have to say, probably like as far as like found footage horror movies, it's more like thriller, not thriller, but like suspense type movie. It's probably in my top 10 or 15 and my favorite found footage movies. Like I really love this movie. It's very well produced. The acting's all pretty good. The premise, love the premise so much. Because I've seen this movie like two times, I think. I'm gonna watch it again. After it ends, I'm always like, I'm shocked that this movie's even allowed to be out there. Like, because it's like too telling and like anything against like government stuff. I'm just like, oh, and what they do in this movie too is they show other actual footage of like things that are real life conspiracies, like World Trade Center stuff and JFK and everything like that. So they show all that, and I'm like, I can't believe they're showing this in this movie. These guys are actually going to get abducted by a cult. The guys who made this movie.
Maybe they're using that like flooding method where they're like, all right, if we put it out there, then people would be like, oh, it's made up
Oh
type
yeah.
aspect. For my next one, I'm gonna go with a classic, and that's gonna be Rosemary's Baby.
Hmm.
I actually just rewatched this last year when we did the 100 horror movie challenge, and I was like, man, this movie still holds up. It's still just as creepy and it's still just as good, even though it's so old. For those who haven't seen this, the premise is this easy as you have this lead character. She becomes pregnant. They meet these neighbors. They seem very nice and friendly and very
Of
accommodating. They
course.
kind of, yeah, they're like those neighbors. They're very parental, very motherly and fatherly. Like, oh yes, we'll take care of you, dear. Oh, here, have this. Oh, this is great for how you're feeling and all that stuff. And they become very close with them, and the husband becomes very close with them. And things are just weird during her pregnancy. They have a specialized like physician that's, recommended by those neighbors, medicine and drinks that come from those neighbors. Everything is in-house treated where she's not feeling 100%. She's feeling like she might be going a little crazy and all of that, and everyone around her is kind of gaslighting her into feeling that it's all in her head and
Yep.
everything is normal that's happening, and she can't really get there's no outside help that she can get because she's kind of isolated through this process. And then, I mean, it's not a spoiler since we're talking about cult episodes. Let's say the neighbors, they're actually involved in a cult, and, that's why they need her maintenance, and they need to, make sure they're the ones that treat her. And the husband all of a sudden is having all this success after all of
Ah,
this.
mhm.
Yeah, so you fill in the blanks with this, but it's an older movie, but it is worth watching. That concept or idea has been done in other projects in the future, so it kind of, other movies have taken from it. I think right now the current season of American Horror Story, I'm not watching it, but I remember seeing a commercial for it, and it seems they're kind of doing like a Rosemary's Baby storyline to it, but yeah, it is well done. It's worth the watch. And again, they do a good job where at times you kind of feel like that main character was like, is this in her head? Like,
Yeah.
okay, well, yeah, there is a chance that maybe it's her emotional distress that's causing her to believe this, or else that maybe everything is fine. I mean, you're watching the movie, so you know it's not. But in the back of your head, you're still kind of like, okay, I can see why she would believe that is fine, that
Mhm.
aspect. So very well done. Probably one of the best cult related movies that there is and has stood this test of time.
I think I've only seen it once, and I kind of started it again. I need to give it a whole new, fresh rewatch. I don't know why it took me so long to watch it. I have no idea, but I just remember really not liking that husband. I from the beginning, from the very beginning, not liking him, and just casting like Mia Farrow in it was just so good because she is so delicate, and she's so she looks fragile, like she's just so like pure looking and everything, and like gentle, and I think she reminds me of like a fawn. She's like a fawn, like a baby
Yeah,
deer, and I think she's just perfect to be like the prey for a cult. Um, and yeah, good casting on that.
Mia Fon.
Mia Fawn, Mia,
Mia Fon.
Mia Fawn. Okay, my next one is going to be House of the Devil.
I know of this one. I haven't seen it, but I know of it.
Okay, so House of the Devil is a 2009 American horror film written, directed, and edited by Ty West. And it was the first ever Ty West movie that I've seen. It's an acquired taste because it's really like a slow burn, like really slow burn, but I like that. It's filmed with like I forget what type of film it's filmed with, but anyway, I'll tell you what it's about first. The plot concerns a young college student who is hired as a babysitter at an isolated house and is soon caught up in bizarre and dangerous events as she fights for her life. The film combines elements of both the slasher film and haunted house subgenres while using the satanic panic of the 1980s as the central plot element. So, the way he filmed it it looks like it's from like the late 70s, early 80s. It's just like, you know how Ty West does that with like certain decades and he's like really
Mhm.
capture that feel. Well, this one, I didn't recognize the actors in it, except for Dee Wallace is in it for a little bit, but I didn't. Greta Gerwig's in it. The first time I've ever seen
Oh,
her. Yeah, but I didn't know who any of these people were. So I was like, is this really from the 80s? Like it was so convincing. So I love that aspect of it. But this one, yeah, it's a very slow burn. I don't want to say anything really about it because and I've recommended this movie to people before and like a lot of people did not like it. But when I first watched it, I remember the tension being like constant, nonstop, and I was like waiting all the time for something. I'm like, something's gonna bust out or something's gonna happen. Like to me, the tension was very thick, and I just absolutely love the aesthetic and the simplicity of this movie. It's like a less is more type thing for me. Like there's no gratuitous like anything in it, and I just love that aspect of it. I like that. The directing style is good. The grit and the grain is awesome, and I love the ending and even the closing credits. He has a way of making closing credits like look so awesome, like with Pearl and everything.
mhm.
The ending's really good, but if you know Ty West for like X, don't think you're gonna get any. I haven't seen X, but I know what it's about. And don't think you're gonna get anything that X is. House of the Devil, because you ain't. But if you're into like really slow burn tension movies and want to see Greta Gerwig from 2009, then I would say something watch House of the Devil. I love that movie.
I might have to give it a try. It sounds interesting. I do like it because nothing pulls you out of a movie more than when you're supposed to reflect a certain era or time frame and you don't do it right. It pulls you out. And now you're thinking about the things that don't fit that era instead of the content of the movie itself. It could be kind of, distracting when you
Mm-hmm.
don't have those little details. Like if this is 90s, if you have a detail that seems off or something that's like, that's more like 2000s type stuff,
Mm-hmm.
it can be distracting. So I like when they're able to do that. If you're going to commit to a time frame, fully commit. The devil is in the details. No pun intended.
Oh, you know, intend that pun. You better intend
Okay,
that
okay.
pun. It's
All
too
right.
perfect.
I rescind that. I intend that pun.
I'm really excited to see what you choose for your next one because I want to know if it's the same that I chose for my third
Okay.
one.
I'm gonna go, and I believe this is from like 2012 or 14 or something like that. It's called The Last Shift. The same director of The Last Shift, he remade the movie again with a bigger budget this time because he said there was some things he didn't get to do because of budget restrictions in the original. And the remake is called Malam.
Yes. Okay.
Malum, but the original is called The Last Shift. Malam itself, visually, it is better. Aesthetically, they're able to do a few things that they couldn't do, but I still prefer something about the grittiness of the
Mm,
original. Something about that lower budget really works for it, and especially for this story, it works more for me than the more polished one, even though the more polished one was visually better in there. So I would say see the last shift, then probably watch Malam and kind of see the difference in the same directors like vision. But the last shift, the story of this is basically you have a rookie cop. Basically, in this town, they're transitioning police stations.
hmm,
So they've been moving everything to the new police station, and this is the last night that this old police station is going to be active. So they have this rookie cop just be the only one there to watch this police station. All calls are supposed to be they're going to be routed to the new police station. So there's places for people to go. The only reason they need a cop there is because there's going to be a pickup in the morning for the last bits of like evidence and stuff that they have to pick up and transfer. That's the
hmm,
only reason why they have to, keep it open. So she just has to stay there overnight until that happens. Her dad was a cop before, but after a bust of a cult itself, after a bust that they had with a call and they arrested a few ones, something happened in the police station. Um, where it is believed that the father went crazy and eliminated all the cult people when they were in their cells and kind of just turned on everyone. So she's kind of got that hanging over her head, being the daughter of this cop. So she's going in there in that same police station where everything happened, and she's alone there, and things are happening. You know,
Mm.
there's someone calling in asking for help when the call's supposed to transfer to the other cop to the other station. She's calling the other station. They're like, "We're not seeing any call." Things like that. There's sounds, things that she's seeing in the station, and as the movie's going on, it's slowly like escalating, and she's seeing remnants of kind of like that old cult that was originally there. So don't want to give out too much more, but it's like it's a buildup of the creepiness in there, and it's again one of those things of like what is real, what is not. Is this in her head? Is it not in her head? So it's very well done, and it's another one where it's all filmed in one location. You're in the station the whole time. At one point, you get the outside of the station, like just outside the door, but everything is in the station, and it just creates the setting creates such tension because it's one person isolated in the station with no backup, no nothing. So like anything can go wrong. And when you start seeing the scenes around like the cells and everything and start
Mm.
seeing things, it's really creepy. And a lot of it was practical effects too, which made
I
it
like
even
that.
like creepier. So this is also another good boat related one that's kind of under the radar
Mhm.
in there. So it's definitely a recommended watch.
I had no idea it was at all cult related.
The trailers doesn't really give that away. It seems like a haunting of a
Yeah.
police station, but as the story develops, you find out this
Mm.
all links up to a cult, a
Okay.
demonic cult.
We're getting some lists going, Jose. We're getting some movie
Yeah,
watching lists.
yeah. I thought we were maybe gonna cross streams a little bit here, but no.
The Ritual is my next one. 2017 British supernatural folk horror film. Okay, it follows the story of four friends on a hiking trip through a Swedish old growth forest where they encounter an ancient evil presence. Now, this movie is wow. I've seen it several times, and it is not only a cultish movie, but it's also like a monster movie. It's a supernatural movie. It's a psychological horror movie. It's everything. I This is maybe one of my favorite like more modern horror movies ever. Just because of how well done it is and how amazing it is. But the main character, how do I explain this, Jose? You explain it better. We both love The Ritual a lot, so you explain more the story. What the story is. You're so much better
Yeah.
at explaining.
Basically, these group of friends, the movie starts off with them beforehand, and you see them there out having fun. Of course, they're all adults in there, and you always have that one friend that's a little wilder than the other, so they're out drinking and everything. One of them, who is basically our main character, wants to keep the party going. His life is at a different stage than everyone else. So he was just like, we got out of here. You know what? Let's go buy some more booze and we can keep going. So he's dead set going into the liquor store to get some more booze. Another friend accompanies him inside there just as the place is getting robbed. As the place is getting robbed, of course, the robbers don't see them as they're going in, so they kind of like back up, go into hiding, accidentally make a noise. So when the
Mhm.
robbers they see the friend, not the one who wanted to go in there to get the booze, the one who came in so the friend wouldn't go alone.
Just like you in the cult, just like you did with your friend in the Scientology
Yes,
cult.
inside this could have been me.
It could
Uh,
have been you.
yeah. So they see him. And then the friend who the main guy, who's the one who wanted to go in there in the first place, he he freezes and he hides. and
Yeah.
they see his friend, and long story short, they end up killing his friend there. They because he wouldn't give away. I think it wasn't it his ring, his
His wedding ring.
ring. He wouldn't give it
Mhm.
up, so they ended up beating him and killing him, and he hid the whole time and didn't
His
try to
friend
do anything
hid.
for his
Yeah.
friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, long story short, this trip that is created, uh, I think like a year later, there's some time has passed, or it might
Hmm.
be longer, is for them to honor this fallen friend, what he would have wanted because it's the trip that he wanted to do, the guy's
Hmm.
trip. So they go on this hike, but our main character is still dealing with the guilt of freezing and not helping his friend and has been dealing with that. But he's
Hmm.
also dealing with the thoughts of, you know, everyone probably blames me, which
Hmm.
they partially do. So there's all that undertone emotions that the guys are refusing to say out loud, which creates that undertone tension while they're
Hmm.
doing this trip. So it's a trip with hidden animosity that's creating tension as they're going through that. That's on top of what's happening in these woods in this little shortcut they decide to take.
Yeah. So this movie, you can say what it is like on the surface, like the monster movie, and it's like a cult type movie. But then it's really just such an emotional, like deep story about guilt and shame and basically forgiving yourself and coming out stronger on the other end. And what I this movie leaves a lot of questions in your mind because you see like fragmented memories and everything throughout the movie. And I love the way they integrate like his like the traumatic experience and like his memories into the forest and into everything that's around him. And there's part of me that wonders if anything in this movie is actually happening or if it's just like his mental state and the battle that he has to like forgive himself and his guilt in his mind, like he's trapped in this real horror in his brain. It's probably, I mean, it probably, I don't know if that's what it is like intended to be, but I always think that whenever I watch it, I'm like, is all this actually happening, or is this just like a metaphor for all of it? You know what I mean? But I like that it makes you ask that question, like, did any of this actually happen at this point, or yeah.
Well, the thing, because a lot of these movies, especially these movies that are cult related, usually our main characters are broken in one way or another. It's
Hmm.
not, characters usually who have it all together and everything
No.
and dandy. They're usually broken characters.
Hmm. Hmm.
And when you have broken characters that are dealing with unaddressed issues and
Yeah.
emotions and things that have and the suppression of feelings and things like that, those things you never know how they can manifest themselves in the person. So in these type of movies, when what they're already going through internally gets added to whatever they're going through externally, as a viewer, if it's done the right way by the directors and the writers in this, it's almost automatic where you have to question what is real, what is not real. Is this really happening? Is this, trauma driven, all that stuff? Our mind is a powerful thing. Our mind uh
Hmm.
can can make us sick. Our mind can make us euphoric, like, can have physical implications on what we see, what we smell, what we hear. That's how powerful like our mind is. So when that's affected by, heavy pain, trauma, and emotions, we can't. So sometimes people get to a situation where can they fully trust what they're seeing, hearing, and believing at times,
Hmm.
or what is being influenced. Our mind can literally play tricks on us, especially when you add an emotional aspect to it that can influence how we, perceive things. So with these movies, if done right, as an audience member, you should be questioning. You should be like, okay, did they really see that? Did they not see that? Okay, well, no one else experienced that, so was it just them, or is it that they're just ignoring the red flags and not seeing it as there. You have to ask
Hmm.
those questions. If you're not asking those questions, I feel that that type of movie just isn't done well enough. You're not having us think about the deeper aspects of it too much. You're too surface level if it's very obvious as one thing or the other, which can work for certain movies. Certain movies you don't need to get that complicated in there. You know,
Hmm.
you don't need to have Friday the 13th where you're diving into deep emotional issues or anything like that. Just give them a mask, give them a weapon, send them out there, and things like that. But for movies like this, when it comes to cult movies where it deals with vulnerable people, you need those deeper elements. You can't go surface level with these type of movies.
Very well said, Jose. Geez. Very, very good.
Went on a ramble.
See, I think you bought that book. I think you bought that book and you stayed in that church. I think you're too smart.
This is for you, Zeno. I I think that's his name.
Meanwhile, thank you guys for watching the side quest with Jose, where we talked about our some of our favorite cult movies. We have a lot more that maybe we'll do a part two because there's a lot more out there that are really, really good that we didn't get a touch on. If you guys have any favorite cult movies, please comment. Let us know below. If you guys are in a cult, let us talk about it. Have you ever been in a cult? Have you ever had a close encounter with a cult like Jose? Tell us in
Sell
the
us.
comments.
Sell us on it. I'm looking to
Sell
buy.
us. You can find more of our content on our YouTube channel, Not a Strong Start. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Not a Strong Start. Don't forget to like and comment and subscribe and share and all that stuff. Sell us on your cult. You can listen to us anywhere you listen to your podcast. And you can follow me on Instagram at Marie Plays It All.
And Jose, you can follow me at This Is Mi Nombre on Instagram.
Never stop playing and never stop.
Drinking that punch.
I mean, you're going to stop drinking the punch eventually because we all know what happens when you do.
I just freaking love her.